In July 2025, a black leather handbag sold at Sotheby's Paris for $10.1 million after a 10-minute bidding war between 9 collectors, the highest price ever paid at auction for a handbag. It had belonged to the woman whose initials were stamped on its front flap. She had carried it for nearly a decade, then given it away to charity. She had preferred, more or less always, the Portuguese fisherman's basket she had bought at an Algarve market in the late 60s for the price of a coffee. Jane Birkin carried that basket to the supermarket and to the Élysée Palace, wore Serge Gainsbourg's white shirts as though they were her own, lived in the same patched pair of flared jeans across years of photographs, and gave her name to the most coveted handbag of the 20th century while preferring the basket to the bag for as long as the basket held together. Her wardrobe across 6 decades came down to a small handful of objects: a basket, a white t-shirt, a man's white shirt, a pair of jeans, a pair of pumps in every color, a pair of knee-high boots, a perfume that smelled of her father's pipe, worn through evenings at Regine's, premieres at Cannes, and afternoons in the 7th arrondissement of Paris. The 20 objects that follow are the wardrobe she actually wore, documented in photographs, in films, in her own diaries, or in the testimony of the houses that made them. Here are the 20. The Hermès Birkin. The bag that would carry her name was conceived on an Air France flight between Paris and London in 1984, on which Birkin happened to be seated next to Jean-Louis Dumas, then chief executive of Hermès. She had not been carrying her basket that day. 2 days before the flight, her then-partner Jacques Doyon had reversed his car over it on purpose, crushing it. When the contents of the replacement spilled in front of Dumas, he sketched a bag on the back of an air sickness bag, and the prototype was delivered to her in 1985. A hybrid of what would become the Birkin 35 and 40 in black calfskin with gilded brass fittings, closed metal rings, a non-removable shoulder strap, and her initials JB embossed below the lock. Each Birkin still takes between 15 and 20 hours of hand stitching, signed inside by its maker. She decorated her own with stickers from Médecins du Monde and UNICEF, with ribbons, charms, and a nail clipper, and she was famously unprecious about it. There's no fun in a bag if it's not kicked around so that it looks as if the cat's been sitting on it, she once said, and it usually has. The cat may even be in it. She kept telling Hermès to make a lighter version. I keep saying to Hermès to make it out of plastic, or, even more fun, make it out of cardboard. Then it wouldn't be so heavy. And on her daughter Lou inheriting one, I think it would be a horrible thing to have a Birkin bag from your mother. Hermès paid her approximately $40,000 a year for the commercial use of her name, and she directed every cent to charity. She carried the prototype nearly daily from 1985 until 1994, when she first auctioned it for a French AIDS charity. It changed hands again in 2000, then disappeared into private collection for 25 years until the Sotheby's sale that closed the room into silence. The Portuguese basket. She found it on a trip to the Algarve in the late 1960s, a working fisherman's creel of the kind woven for centuries in the eastern villages of Tavira, Castromarim, and Alcutim from cane, harvested in the salt marshes of the Ria Formosa, with a flat-hinged lid and a single curved handle, and she carried it for the next 15 years to the supermarket, on Air France flights, to a 1972 demonstration in Paris, and to the 1974 Cannes Film Festival, where she dressed it for evening with a silk scarf knotted around the handle. The image of her stepping onto a pedalo at the Carlton in Cannes that same week, basket on the seat beside her, became one of the most reproduced photographs of the Croisette in the 70s, precisely because she had carried the basket as if it were nothing. Bonjour Coco, the basket house founded by Leah Heavey, still commissions creels from the same Algarve weaver who supplied Birkin's family in the 70s, in his 80s now, weaving since he was 10. The white cotton t-shirt. White cotton t-shirts in several cuts ran across her wardrobe from the late 60s onward, sometimes Petit Bateau, the Troy house founded in 1893 by Pierre Valton, whose famous boys' line tee was registered as a trademark in 1920, with a name borrowed from the nursery rhyme Maman les petits bateaux, qui vont sur l'eau ont-ils des jambes, sometime men's, sometime Gainsbourg's, almost always slightly translucent across the chest. She wore one in Jacques Deray's La Piscine, filmed at the Villa Tournelle above Saint-Tropez between August and October 1968, costumes by André Courrèges. The men's white cotton shirt. Most often Gainsbourg's own, lifted from his closet at 5B Rue de Verneuil, the house they shared from 1969 until 1980. For her own shirt purchases, the documented house was Charvet at 28 Place Vendôme, founded in 1838 by Joseph Christophe Charvet, known as Christophe, as the world's first dedicated shirt maker. He coined the term chemisier to describe the new trade. The house keeps 6,000 fabrics in stock, 400 of them white, in 104 shades of white. Birkin wore her shirts unbuttoned at the throat, sleeves rolled to the elbow, cuffs left open. Vintage flared jeans. She wore flared jeans across years of photographs and pulled at least one pair to the verge of disintegration. The patched home-sewn bell-bottoms the denim writer Jane Herman called odd home-sewn bell-bottoms the week of Birkin's death, alongside paler washes, raw indigo, and the higher-rise straight-leg pairs she wore through the mid-'80s. Among the houses named in her denim wardrobe is Seafarer, the Brooklyn denim house founded in 1896 as a U.S. Navy supplier, whose flared cut became cult civilian wear in the 70s through Birkin, Brigitte Bardot, and Farrah Fawcett. High-waisted, faded, turned up once at the ankle. White trousers. Trousers in multiple colors and cuts moved through her wardrobe across the 70s and 80s. Beige linen for the South, navy gabardine for Paris, cream for evening, the tailored black trousers she paired with men's blazers from the 80s onward. But the most photographed were the heavy white cotton wide legs she wore head to toe in Saumur on July 10, 1977, the basket on her arm. The image became one of the defining 1970s photographs of her because nothing about it looked calculated. She was walking down a street in a small town in the Loire Valley with a basket of shopping, and Jean-Jacques Bernier had simply caught her doing it. Short shorts. Short shorts were a constant from the late 60s onward in fabrics and lengths she varied. Frayed denim cutoffs made from her own worn-through jeans, patched by hand, velvet hot pants designed by the American couturier Vicky Thiel, who had trained in Paris under Christian Dior New York, and Madame Gray, before opening her own salon at the Hotel Plaza Athénée on Avenue Montaigne in 1975, photographed in the United Kingdom on January 30th, 1971, white linen for summer, cotton pajama shorts pulled over the tights for evening. She wore them bare-legged in summer, over knee socks in winter, under a pea coat at the airport, and with a turtleneck in spring. The mini dress. She wore mini dresses by every major couturier of the era in many fabrics and many colors. Courrèges in white and lemon and pale blue, Cardin in geometric shifts, Saint Laurent's Mondrian blocked jersey, and Paco Rabanne in chainmail of aluminium and iridescent plastic. Birkin's most photographed mini appearance was the Paris premiere of Pierre Grimblau's Slogan on August 28, 1969, where she wore a black knitted mini, the Carrel single-strap Mary Janes she would wear in every color for the next 15 years, and the basket. The photograph became iconic because the camera flash made the knit translucent in a way she hadn't anticipated, and her own line on the resulting naked dress has been quoted for 50 years. "If I had known, I would not have put knickers on." The crochet long dress. The crochet long dress recurred across her wardrobe in a procession of forms, short and lace-trimmed for her marriage to John Barry at Chelsea Register Office on 16th of October 1965, where she was 18 and trying to be the best wife in the world. Floor length and turned backwards at the Artists' Union Gala in Paris on 25th April 1969, fastened at the navel with a brooch and the spine bare. Courage put her in crocheted poolside cover-ups for La Piscine. Sheer black tights. Sheer black tights ran beneath her minis, beneath her short shorts, beneath her dresses for evening, in deniers fine enough to read as bare skin in photographs, slightly more opaque at the foot than the thigh, equally documented under her denim cutoffs in summer and her velvet hot pants for evening. The most photographed instance is the slogan premiere in August 1969, the tights beneath the black knitted mini and above the single-strap Mary Janes. The dominant Paris hosiery house was Dim, founded in autumn in 1956 by Bernard Giberstein, whose black tights came in a flat envelope that Parisian women bought by the dozen at Monoprix. The sequin long dress. The floor-length sequin gown was a recurring shape across the 70s in silver, in gold, in metallic blue, in iridescent black, worn for dancing at Regine's for the European Show Business Festival in 1972, where she went completely barefoot, for Cannes, when the velvet was retired for the evening, and for the late-night Paris addresses, she and Gainsbourg moved between. Regine's was the Paris nightclub Regine Zilberberg, opened in the Latin Quarter in 1957, a short walk from 5 bis Rue de Verneuil, where Birkin and Gainsbourg lived from 1969. Paco Rabanne's chainmail and metal disc evening pieces, assembled by jump ring rather than thread, were among her preferred armor for those late nights. The sequin short dress. The sequin and metal mini was a fixture in iterations she varied across the decade. Rabanne chainmail over a soft slip in the early photographs with Gainsbourg in a coordinating men's mock neck, lighter beaded versions for after parties at Cannes. Sheer sequined shifts cut high on the thigh for the late-night Paris circuit. The Birkin-Gainsbourg matching evening look from the early 1970s became one of the most reproduced couple images of the 20th century. After his death, she said, "There's a great modesty in all of his songs that he wrote about separation. Serge never stopped writing about me until the end." The gold metallic top. She wore the gold metallic top across appearances in the mid-70s, a gold leather look cropped jacket photographed by Laurent Mouse on the set of the French television show Taratada on January 24, 1974, worn against the basket, her hair untouched, the glamour pulled deliberately against the rest of the look, so it never read as costume. The velvet blazer. Velvet ran through her wardrobe in registers she varied by season. The crushed blush pink gown at the 1974 Cannes Film Festival, photographed with a long string of pearls cinched as a belt and the basket at her side. Deeper plum velvets for Paris winters, black velvet blazers cut on a man's pattern and thrown over jeans, and the smoking jackets she returned to again and again. The Yves Saint Laurent Le Smoking, the women's tuxedo jacket Saint Laurent introduced in his autumn 1966 collection, became iconic when Helmut Newton photographed model Vibeke Knudsen wearing one on the Rue Aubriot at night in 1975 for Vogue Paris. Birkin modeled the house's pieces for the Saint Laurent Music Project, photographed by Hedi Slimani in black and white. The fur coat. The fur coats came across her wardrobe in proportions she varied deliberately against the rest of what she had on, vintage and oversized, sometimes a man's coat in cut, sometimes fox, sometimes mink, sometimes a borrowed astrakhan, paired with denim, with cutoffs, with the basket. By the later 70s, the everyday alternative was a navy peacoat from Yves Saint Laurent Rive Gauche. The ready-to-wear line, Saint Laurent, had opened on September 26, 1966, at 21 Rue de Tournon. Birkin wore the peacoat and the furs over almost everything for the next 20 years. Pumps. Birkin's town shoe across the late 60s and 70s was the pump, sometimes a low Cuban-heeled Mary Jane with a single strap across the instep, sometimes a taller closed-toe court shoe on a slimmer heel, almost always in a color she had chosen against the rest of the outfit, rather than to match it. She was photographed in the black single-strap version at the Paris premiere of Slogan on August 28, 1969, in red against the blush velvet at Cannes in 1974, in cream with the white trousers in Saumur in 1977, in patent for evening at Regine's, and in a soft tan that matched the basket. The documented house was Carrel, founded in 1952 by Georges and Rosa Carrel on Boulevard Saint-Michel near the Sorbonne in the Latin Quarter. Knee-high boots. The knee-high boot was one of her constants across the 70s, in colors she rotated through deliberately. Red and rust, most photographed, but also tan, chocolate, black patent, brown suede, soft cream. In mid-calf and over-the-knee lengths, in heeled and flat versions, worn with mini dresses, with short shorts and tights, and with the white shirt and jeans uniform turned up at the cuff. The defining image is the 1975 photograph in Paris with a trench coat. The dominant French bootmakers of the period were Maud Frison, who opened her atelier in Saint-Germain-des-Prés in 1969, and Charles Jourdan in Romans-sur-Isère. Flat sandals. Flat leather sandals took her through every Saint-Tropez summer from 1969 onward, in shapes she varied across the decades: thong, T-strap, crisscross, gladiator, usually in tan, sometimes in cream, sometimes in red, sometimes left to the cobbler in Saint-Tropez to repair through the season. The dominant sandalier of her era was Quai Jacques, founded in 1933 by the Armenian shoemaker Jacques Keklikian on Rue Allard, where the original family workshop still produces every pair by hand, using a leather press that has not been replaced. She often went without them anyway. The belts. A few of the recorded versions, a thin silver leather belt over the white t-shirt and high-waisted denim in La Piscine in 1969. The long string of pearls cinched as a belt over the blush velvet at Cannes in 1974. Paco Rabanne's metal disc and chainmail belts worn through the early 70s in the same evening vocabulary as his tops and minis, and the wider, well-creased leather belt of her later years, which sits in nearly every photograph from the 1996 Cashmere and Jeans period through her 2022 sitting for Acne Studios. She tied scarves around her waist as well. She tied scarves around everything, the basket included. L'air de Rien, Miller Harris. I have never liked perfumes, she told Vogue. I have always preferred to carry potpourri in my pocket. In 2006, after the two were introduced by the photographer Gabrielle Crawford, the British perfumer Lynn Harris, who had founded Miller Harris in 2000, agreed to compose one for her. Birkin's brief was specific. Not hyacinth, not tuberose, not lily of the valley. All the things usually associated with heady, dark-haired women. She wanted instead a little of my brother's hair, my father's pipe, floor polish, an empty chest of drawers, old forgotten houses. The brother in question was Andrew Birkin, the screenwriter. Harris built the formula around French oak moss, Birkin's favorite note, with Tunisian neroli at the top, and sweet musk, amber, vanilla, and patchouli at the base. The name translates as the air of nothing. It opens powdery and settles into warm wood and skin. Honourable Mentions. A handful of pieces sit just outside the 20, the Breton stripe top, the navy and cream jersey of the French Navy, made official uniform by an 1858 Act of French Parliament that specified 21 stripes on the body, said by legend to commemorate Napoleon's victories, ran through her holiday photographs against cut-off jeans and denim. The reference house is St. James, weaving in Normandy since 1889. The trench coat, most photographed over the knee-high boots in the 1975 Paris image. The reference house is Burberry, whose gabardine was invented by Thomas Burberry in 1879 and adopted by British officers in the First World War. Converse. The white canvas low-top, Chuck Taylor All-Star in production since 1917, appears in nearly every photograph of her later years, on stage and at film festivals. An old pair of jeans, Converse, and a man's jersey, she said, was what she felt most comfortable in. Jane Birkin died at her home in Paris on the 16th of July 2023 at 76. She left 14 albums, more than 70 films, 3 daughters, and a wardrobe the rest of the world is still trying to imitate. President Macron called her a French icon because she embodied freedom, because she sang the most beautiful words of our language. Brigitte Bardot wrote only, "J'ai un gros chagrin," I have great sorrow. She was buried at Montparnasse, in the same alley as Gainsbourg. Asked late in life what she would do if she were mayor of Paris, she said she would invite everyone to have free boat trips on the river and free balloon rides over the city, and let the elderly in retirement homes wander free. The Hermès Birkin, the Carrel pump, the Petit Bateau tee, the Saint Laurent peacoat, the Charvet shirt, the Miller Harris perfume. Every house mentioned in this video is still in business, and every piece is linked in the description below. Where the original isn't available, you'll find the closest modern equivalent, the basket included.
Thank you everyone so much for watching Cultured Elegance. If you'd love to support the channel, you can become a channel member today by clicking Join at the bottom of the screen. Thank you everyone so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.